"Forgive me, Father, for am about to sin. Tomorrow at midnight I will kill you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Father Emmanuel Okafor pressed his trembling hand against the wooden screen of the confessional booth. He knew that voice. He had heard it every Sunday for 20 years. To understand how a man of God got himself in this, we must go back to where it all began, 3 months before this terrible confession. The town of Millhaven was small, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where secrets were currency and gossip spread faster than wildfire. St. Teresa's Church sat on the hill, overlooking the town like a stone guardian. Father Emmanuel had served there for 2 decades. He was a good man, a faithful man. He listened to confessions every Saturday evening, and he never broke the seal. Never. The seal of confession was sacred. What was said in that booth stayed between the confessor and God. No matter what. That was the rule. That was his vow. It was a cold Saturday in October when he first appeared. Father Emmanuel sat in the confessional booth, reading his Bible by candlelight. The church was quiet except for the wind rattling the stained glass windows. He checked his watch. 7:45. Almost time to close up. Then he heard footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Someone entered the booth on the other side of the wooden screen. Father Emmanuel closed his Bible. "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned," he began, prompting the visitor. But the voice that answered made his skin prickle. "No, Father," the voice said softly. "I have not sinned." "Not yet." Father Emmanuel frowned. "I don't understand." "I am here to confess something I will do, not something I have done." The priest's frown deepened. In 20 years he had never heard such a thing. "My son, confession is for sins already committed, for asking forgiveness." "Tomorrow night," the voice interrupted, "I will steal from the collection box. $43. I will take it at 9 p.m. when the church is empty." Father Emmanuel's heart quickened. That's not how confession works. If you're planning to sin, then don't do it. Choose a different path. "I am not asking for your advice, Father. I am telling you what will happen. Consider this a courtesy." Before Father Emmanuel could respond, he heard footsteps again. The person stood and walked away. The church door creaked open, then closed. Father Emmanuel sat in the darkness, his mind racing. What kind of confession was that? He wanted to chase after the person, to see his face. But something stopped him. Something in that voice felt familiar, like an echo of something he couldn't quite place. That night, Father Emmanuel couldn't sleep. He lay in his small room beside the church, staring at the ceiling. The voice kept playing in his mind, over and over. "Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., $43. The next evening, Father Emmanuel stayed late in the church. He told himself he was organizing the hymn books, but really, he was watching, waiting. At exactly 9 p.m., he walked to the back of the church where the collection box stood. It was a simple wooden box with a lock, only he had the key. He checked inside. $43. Exactly. Father Emmanuel locked the box and went to his room, but he couldn't settle. At midnight, he crept back into the church. The moonlight streamed through the windows, painting everything silver and shadow. He approached the collection box. The lock was broken. The box was open. He looked inside. Empty. His hands shook as he stepped back. It happened, exactly as the voice said. $43. 9 p.m. But how? How did they know? How could they predict it so perfectly? Unless they were the one who did it. Father Emmanuel felt sick. He had heard a confession of a future crime, and now that crime had happened. What was he supposed to do? Report it? To whom? He had no proof, no face, no name. And even if he did, The seal of confession bound him to silence. He couldn't tell anyone, not the police, not the mayor, not even his closest friend, Deacon Marcus. He was trapped by his own vows. The following Saturday, Father Emmanuel almost didn't open the confessional. He thought about locking the door, pretending to be sick. But a priest has duties, so he sat in the booth, his stomach tight with dread. At 7:30 the footsteps came again, the same slow, deliberate walk, the same presence settling on the other side of the screen. "Bless me, Father, for I will sin." Father Emmanuel's breath caught. "It's you." "Yes. Who are you? Why are you doing this?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is what I tell you next. I don't want to hear it." Father Emmanuel's voice rose. "I don't want any part of this." On Thursday night, the voice continued, calm and steady. "I will visit the home of Isaiah Chin. He lives on Maple Street, the blue house with the white fence. At 11 p.m. I will enter through his back door, and I will take his wife to bed." Father Emmanuel felt his heart drop. "No, no, you can't. Isaiah will be working the night shift at the factory. His wife, Amara, will be alone. She will not resist. She will want it. And when it's done, their marriage will shatter like glass." "Stop." Father Emmanuel stood, his hands gripping the edge of the booth. "I won't listen to this. I won't." But the footsteps were already moving away. The church door opened and closed. Father Emmanuel stumbled out of the booth, gasping for air. His mind screamed at him. "Warn them. Warn Isaiah. Warn Amara. Save their marriage." But the seal, if he broke it, he would lose everything. His position, his vows, his purpose. That week was the longest of Father Emmanuel's life. He barely ate, barely slept. Every time he saw Isaiah in town, the man smiled and waved, completely unaware of the storm coming for him. Father Emmanuel tried to convince himself the confession was just a sick joke, a cruel prank. It wouldn't really happen. But he knew better. On Friday morning, the news spread through Millhaven like poison. Isaiah and Amara were separating. Someone saw a man leaving their house Thursday night. Amara confessed everything to her sister, weeping. Isaiah moved out that same day, his face hollow and broken. Father Emmanuel heard the news from Deacon Marcus in the church kitchen. "Terrible thing," Marcus said, shaking his head. "Who could have seen that coming?" Father Emmanuel said nothing. His hands shook as he poured his coffee. He had seen it coming. He had known, and he had done nothing. That night, Father Emmanuel knelt before the altar, tears streaming down his face. He prayed for guidance, for strength, for forgiveness. But the only answer was silence, and in that silence he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. No one was there, just shadows, and the faint echo of a voice that sounded too much like his own. The third confession came 2 weeks later. Father Emmanuel had lost weight. His eyes were hollow, rimmed with purple shadows. Deacon Marcus noticed and asked if he was sick. Father Emmanuel lied and said it was just a cold. But it wasn't a cold. It was guilt, heavy and suffocating like a stone on his chest. He thought about leaving Millhaven, running away. But where could a priest run? And what kind of man abandons his flock when they need him most? So he stayed, and he waited. On Saturday evening, the church felt colder than usual. Father Emmanuel sat in the confessional booth, his hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles turned white. 7:30 arrived. The footsteps came. "Bless me, Father, for I will sin." Father Emmanuel didn't respond. He just sat there, frozen. On Monday morning, the voice continued, "I will go to the barn owned by Thomas and Ruth Adeyemi, the red barn on the edge of town. At 6 a.m., when the sun is just rising, I will set it on fire." Father Emmanuel's eyes went wide. "No, people could die." Their son, little Josiah, sometimes sleeps in the loft when he's upset with his parents. He had a fight with them yesterday. He might be there Monday morning. Father Emmanuel shot to his feet. You can't. I won't let you. You already have, Father, by staying silent, by keeping your vows. The footsteps walked away. Father Emmanuel burst out of the booth, running to the church door. He flung it open and looked into the street. Empty. No one. Not a soul. How was that possible? He was only seconds behind them. Father Emmanuel stood in the doorway, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His mind raced. He couldn't stay silent this time, not when a child's life was at risk. The seal of confession be damned. On Sunday morning after Mass, Father Emmanuel pulled Thomas Adeyemi aside. Thomas, he said quietly, I need you to keep Josiah away from your barn tomorrow. Just trust me. Please. Thomas frowned. What? Why? I can't explain, but please, keep him home. Keep him safe. Thomas stared at him for a long moment. Father, are you all right? You don't look well. Just promise me. Thomas nodded slowly. All right. I promise. Father Emmanuel felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he could stop it this time. Maybe breaking his vow just a little would be enough. Monday morning he woke before dawn. He sat by his window watching the sun rise over Millhaven. At 6:15 he heard the sirens. His heart sank. He ran outside and followed the sound. Other people were running too, pointing toward the edge of town. Black smoke rose into the morning sky like a dark prayer. The Adeyemi barn was burning. Flames consumed the red wood, turning it to ash and ember. Firefighters sprayed water, but it was too late. The barn was already gone. Father Emmanuel pushed through the crowd. He saw Thomas and Ruth standing together, holding each other. Their faces were streaked with tears and soot, and beside them stood Josiah, alive. The boy was crying, but he was safe. Father Emmanuel felt his knees go weak with relief. He had saved him. By warning Thomas, he had saved the boy's life. But then he saw something that made his blood run cold. In the distance, away from the crowd, stood a man, tall, alone, watching the flames with calm, dark eyes. Father Emmanuel couldn't see his face clearly, but there was something about the way he stood, the way he tilted his head. It felt familiar. The man turned and walked away, disappearing into the morning shadows. Father Emmanuel wanted to chase him, but his legs wouldn't move. He just stood there, shaking. That night, Father Emmanuel couldn't eat, couldn't pray. He sat in his room, staring at the wall. He had broken the seal. He had warned Thomas. And yes, Josiah was safe. But the barn still burned. The confession still came true. What did that mean? Was it fate? Was it inevitable? Or was he somehow making it happen by trying to stop it? The questions circled his mind like vultures. 2 weeks passed. Father Emmanuel barely left his room. Deacon Marcus brought him food, but most of it went uneaten. The priest looked sick. His skin was pale. His hands trembled. He started having blackouts. Small ones at first. He would be reading, then suddenly realize an hour had passed. Or he would be walking in the church and find himself in a different room with no memory of moving. It terrified him. On Saturday evening, he almost locked the confessional. He stood in front of it, his hand on the door, debating. But something pulled him inside, something he couldn't name. He sat in the darkness and waited. 7:30 came. The footsteps. Bless me, Father, for I will sin. Father Emmanuel's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from me? Nothing, Father. I only want to confess. Then confess what you've done, not what you will do. Confess and ask for forgiveness. The voice was quiet for a moment. Then, there is no forgiveness for what I've done, or what I will do. Everyone can be forgiven. Not me. Silence. Then the voice spoke again, softer now, sadder. On Friday night, I will go to the home of Mayor Langston. His daughter, Thandiwe, will be there alone, studying for her exams. At 10 p.m., I will bring her a cup of tea, and in that tea I will put something that will make her sleep forever. Father Emmanuel felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. You're talking about killing. Yes. Why? What has she done to you? She smiled at me once, in the street. A kind smile. And I realized I don't deserve kindness. So I will take it away. From her, from this town, from I. Father Emmanuel's hands were shaking so badly he had to grip the bench. I won't let you. I'll tell the mayor, I'll tell the police. I don't care about the seal anymore. I don't care. You'll tell them what, Father? That a voice in a confessional told you about a future crime. They'll think you're mad. They'll take you away, lock you up, and Thandiwe will still die. The footsteps walked away. Father Emmanuel burst out of the booth, screaming, Stop! Come back! But the church was empty. He ran outside. The street was dark, no one there. He fell to his knees on the church steps, sobbing. He had to do something. He couldn't let another person die. The next morning, Father Emmanuel went to Mayor Langston's house. He knocked on the door until the mayor answered, annoyed. Father Emmanuel? It's 6 a.m. Your daughter is in danger. The mayor's face changed. What? On Friday night, someone will try to hurt her. They want to poison her. You need to keep her safe. Keep her with you. Don't let her be alone. Who? Who's going to hurt her? Father Emmanuel hesitated. I don't know, but please, believe me. Mayor Langston stared at him. Have you been drinking, Father? No, I'm serious. Please. I think you need rest. You look terrible. I'm not crazy. I didn't say you were. The mayor's voice softened. But I think you're exhausted. Go home. Sleep. We'll talk later. The door closed. Father Emmanuel stood there, helpless. Friday came. That evening, Father Emmanuel sat in the church, praying, begging, pleading with God to stop what was coming. At midnight, someone knocked on the church door. It was Deacon Marcus. His face was pale. Father, he whispered, it's Thandiwe Langston. She's dead. They found her in her room. The doctors think it was poison. Father Emmanuel didn't move. He just stared into the darkness, and somewhere deep inside his mind, he heard laughter. Father Emmanuel stopped sleeping. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Thandiwe's face, her kind smile, the smile that got her killed. 4 people had suffered because of the confessions. 4 lives destroyed, and he had been powerless to stop any of it. But the worst confession was still coming. The one about him. Father Emmanuel knew it would happen on Saturday. The pattern never changed, every 2 weeks, like clockwork. And this Saturday, the voice would return to tell him exactly how he would die. He thought about running, packing a bag and leaving Millhaven in the middle of the night. But where could he go? The voice was everywhere, in the confessional, in his prayers, in his own head. Besides, he had a terrible feeling that running wouldn't save him. Nothing would. Saturday evening arrived like a funeral. Father Emmanuel sat in the confessional booth at 7 p.m., half an hour early. He held a candle in his trembling hands. The flame danced and flickered, casting shadows on the wooden walls. He waited. 7:30 came. The footsteps. But this time, Father Emmanuel spoke first. I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me that you'll kill me, tomorrow night, midnight, some specific, terrible way. Silence. Then, yes. Father Emmanuel closed his eyes. Then just do it. Tell me. Get it over with. Tomorrow night at midnight, the voice said slowly, I will enter this church. I will walk to the altar, and I will take the knife we use to cut the communion bread. Then I will go to your room. You will be asleep, and I will—" "Stop!" Father Emmanuel's voice cracked. "I don't want to hear the details." "You must. You're the priest. You must hear my confession." "Why me? Why are you doing this to me?" The voice was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because you're the only one who can forgive me." Father Emmanuel felt tears streaming down his face. "I can't forgive you. Not for this. Not for killing. Then we are both damned." The footsteps walked away, but this time Father Emmanuel didn't chase them. He just sat in the darkness, crying. That night, Father Emmanuel did something he had never done before. He investigated. If he was going to die tomorrow, he needed to know who. He needed to see the face of his killer before the end. He started with the collection box theft, $43. He checked the church records. Only 5 people had keys to the building. Himself, Deacon Marcus, the janitor, and 2 volunteers. He interviewed them all. None of them had taken the money. They all had alibis. Dead end. Next, he thought about Isaiah and Amara. Who could have known Isaiah would be working that Thursday night? He asked around town carefully, pretending to be concerned about the couple. No one knew anything. Another dead end. The barn fire. The police said it was arson, but they found no evidence. No fingerprints. No witnesses. Just ashes. Dead end again. Thandiwee's poisoning. The autopsy showed a rare substance in her tea, something that had to be specially ordered. Father Emmanuel checked with the local pharmacy and the library. Nothing. It was like the killer was a ghost. Father Emmanuel returned to the church, exhausted and defeated. He walked through the empty halls, his footsteps echoing. Then he noticed something strange. On his desk in his room there was a notebook he didn't remember placing there. He picked it up and opened it. Inside were notes, written in his own handwriting. "Collection box, take at 9 p.m., $43 exactly. Isaiah Chen, night shift Thursday. Amara will be alone. Barn, 6 a.m. Monday. Red matches from the kitchen." Father Emmanuel's hands began to shake. He flipped through more pages. Thandiwei, sweet girl, too kind. The tea, the powder from the cabinet. His blood turned. These were plans, detailed plans for every confession, every crime, in his handwriting. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He looked at his hands as if they belonged to someone else. His mind raced back through the past 3 months. The blackouts, the missing time, the feeling of being somewhere without remembering how he got there, the dirt under his fingernails after the barn burned, the bitter taste in his mouth the morning Thandiwei died, the familiar voice in the confessional, his voice. Father Emmanuel stumbled backward, knocking over his chair. He ran to the small bathroom in his room and stared into the mirror. The face looking back at him was gaunt, hollow, haunted. And behind his own reflection he saw movement. He spun around. No one there. He looked back at the mirror. His reflection was smiling. But he wasn't smiling. "No," Father Emmanuel breathed. "This isn't real. This isn't—" His reflection's mouth moved and he heard the voice. That cursed voice. "Bless me, Father, for I will sin." Father Emmanuel screamed. He punched the mirror, shattering it into 100 pieces. Blood ran down his knuckles. He fell to the floor, sobbing. He remembered now. 6 months ago, before the confessions began, a young woman had come to confess. She told him her husband was beating her. She begged for help, but Father Emmanuel, bound by the seal, had said nothing, had done nothing. 3 days later, she was dead, and something inside Father Emmanuel broke. The guilt had fractured him, created the killer, that part of him that refused to stay silent anymore, that punished the town, that punished himself. He understood now. There was no mysterious killer, no stranger confessing future crimes. It was him. He had done everything: the theft, the affair with Amara, the barn fire, Thandiwi's death. His mind had fractured, split into two pieces. One piece, the priest, sat in the confessional and listened. The other piece, the killer, confessed what he would do, then went out and did it. He had been confessing to himself, warning himself, begging himself to stop. But the killer inside him wouldn't listen, couldn't be stopped. And now that killer had made one final confession. Tomorrow at midnight, Father Emmanuel would take the communion knife. He would go to his room, and he would kill the only person left who knew the truth: himself. The next day passed like a dream or a nightmare. Father Emmanuel tried to leave the church, but his legs wouldn't carry him past the front steps. He tried to call for help, but his voice wouldn't work. He was a prisoner in his own mind. At 11 p.m., he sat in his room, staring at the clock, watching the minutes tick by. 11:30, 11:45, 11:59. The clock struck midnight. Father Emmanuel's body stood up, but it wasn't him controlling it. He watched from somewhere deep inside as his hands opened the drawer, took out the communion knife. The blade gleamed in the moonlight. His body walked to the bed, lay down, closed his eyes. His hand raised the knife. And in that moment, Father Emmanuel made a choice. If he was going to die, he would die as a priest, not a killer. With the last bit of control he had, he whispered, "Forgive me," not to God, to himself, to the part of him that had broken, that had suffered, that had carried so much guilt and pain that it had shattered into pieces. "I forgive you," he whispered. "I forgive us." The knife stopped. His hand trembled, hovering above his chest. Then, slowly, it lowered. The knife clattered to the floor. Father Emmanuel opened his eyes. Tears streamed down his face. His body was his own again. The darkness inside him was still there. It would always be there. But it was no longer in control. He had broken the cycle, not by running, not by fighting, but by forgiving. The next morning, Father Emmanuel walked to the police station. He confessed everything, every crime, every death, every terrible thing he had done while his mind was broken. They arrested him. The trial was swift. He was found guilty but mentally unwell. They sent him to a hospital for people whose minds were shattered. He never returned to Millhaven, but sometimes, late at night, the patients in the hospital heard him praying. Not for forgiveness from God, for the forgiveness of those he had hurt. And in his prayers there was something that sounded like peace. Now listen closely. The confessions we make in the dark, the secret sins we hide, the pain we bury, the guilt we carry, they don't disappear. They grow. They twist and change until we don't recognize them anymore, until they become monsters wearing our face. Father Emmanuel thought he could keep his vows and stay silent. But silence doesn't protect us. It destroys us. Whatever darkness you're hiding, whatever guilt you carry, whatever confession you're too afraid to make, speak it before it speaks for you. Because the most dangerous confessions are the ones we make to ourselves, and the cruelest prison is the one we build in our own mind. Thank you so much for watching. Please support me by liking and subscribing to my channel. See you in the next one.